Your success is God's doing. Therefore, your success is God's platform. What's up, family? Welcome back to another moment of PC Talkback. Again, this is just a space where we want to have some helpful content that goes deeper into some of the things and the themes that we have been talking about on a Sunday morning or within the ethos of who we are as a church, things that are mission critical, things that are life practical, that can help us be who God called us to be and do what God called us to do. Right now, we're talking about these mission critical ideas of who we are as revived lives active to glorify God. We are incarnational missionaries, influential disciples, and innovative reconcilers. This episode is going to be primarily focused on being influential disciples. Now, as I think about being influential disciples, again, if I go back to Matthew chapter 9, Jesus said that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. You will follow that text and you'll see then Jesus is going to send out 72 to go and bear witness, and they're going to heal people, they're going to cast out demons, and they're going to do this work that they have saw Jesus do. The good news is that Jesus never intended for his ministry to start and stop just with him. He knew that in order for the good news to go to more people, that he would have to make disciples. And another word for disciple is learner, or we could say an apprentice. And so Jesus then tells us in the Great Commission, go ye therefore and make disciples. Make disciples of all nations, people groups. Make disciples. And that's what the primary commission of the Christian is, to make disciples. Dallas Willard, he said, we cannot allow the Great Commission to become the Great Omission, which means for us to have a Christianity that does not have discipleship at the center is not the Christianity in which Jesus desired for us. And so as we talk about discipleship, this is giving us an opportunity to now joyfully and intentionally participate in the mission of God, to share the good news and help people be faithful and fruitful followers of Jesus Christ. Influential disciples, as our functional definition, means that they are high-capacity disciples that make disciples. Influential disciples also, they can gather people, they can care for people, they amplify vision, and they spur other people on to good works. When we talk about influence, so many people long for influence and significance. They want to know, who am I influencing, or who am I leading? Who's looking up to me? And influential disciples does not mean popular, it just means purposeful. It doesn't mean that you're going to get more popular, but it does mean that you're going to live more purposefully. I think I got that one out. And so as we talk about this idea of being an influential disciple, you are one that maximizes and amplifies purpose. Because when you live in purpose, you won't get caught up or either continue to chase pleasure. Purpose and pleasure cannot coexist. You're going to choose one of the two. Remember, the most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Remember that Jesus has called us to be his witnesses and make disciples. And so there are people who need to learn who Jesus is from you, but then they also need to learn what it looks like to live a life that is dedicated to Jesus. This will include spiritual disciplines. It can include marriage. It can include parenting, financial stewardship, personal stewardship of your body. And we all have people who are looking for examples. And I believe that we can be the examples. As we gather together as a body of believers and as a church, I believe that we can be an example, a powerful, Christ-centered example to the world around us of what it looks like to live a holistic, healthy life that bears fruit for the glory of God. Influential disciples, they can build a team. They can gather people together. And I want to emphasize this because the church, or should I say the believer, should be marked by decreased hostility and increased hospitality. When I think about this idea of influential disciples, and I can't help but thinking about Peter, Or either I could also think about Mary and Martha. So I'm going to use these as two different examples. When I think about influential disciples, I think about Peter, that when he had this miraculous catch in Luke chapter 5, and Jesus told him, drop his nets. And when he dropped his nets and he poured in this miraculous catch, it was so many fish that their nets began to tear, and they called over their friends, their co-workers who had a boat as well. And they said, come and get some of this catch. In other words, Peter's life has such a miraculous touch from Jesus that it immediately overflowed into somebody else's life. My question is, what is God doing in your life that could be a blessing to somebody else? Like, what is it that God has already done? Maybe that might be the place where God is saying, that's your moment of influence. So that's Peter as an example. Let me use Mary and Martha, and I can almost just say Martha, but let's say Mary and Martha because they live together. These are Lazarus sisters. But every time you hear about them, with the exception of the time that they were grieving Lazarus' death, they were hosting people at their home. They were hosting the disciples, and we can say that in retrospect. We're like, oh man, it's so nice they had Jesus and the disciples over. Let me give you some numbers for a moment. This means Jesus, grown man, brought 12 other grown men for dinner. Now, that sounds a little bit different. But Mary and Martha, they were able to host that. Like, could you imagine how much food, how much preparation and space? And so you can imagine Lazarus not even being one of the disciples, but Mary, Martha, and Lazarus had a gift of hospitality. And may I say that when you are an influential disciple, that it sets you up for your life to be an amazing platform, that even when you hit calamity, your calamity would be an opportunity for Jesus to show up. And so later on, when Jesus heals Lazarus, remember Jesus wept with Mary and Martha because Lazarus was dead. So influential disciples build healthy relationships that are marked by empathy, sympathy, and compassion. It's not about how loud you preach. Oftentimes, it's not about your vocal range as much as it is about your life. So influential disciples live lives that invite other people to be able to have encounters with Jesus and learn how to follow Jesus faithfully and fruitfully. And I'll close with this one. Your success is God's doing. Therefore, your success is God's platform. Influential disciples have normally succeeded in something somewhere that other people can admire them about. Here's the question: will God get the glory or will you get the glory? So maybe you have been great at your job. You've climbed the corporate ladder. And people are wondering, how is it that you could be an executive director or a tenured professor or a CEO or COO? Like, your platform is not just a physical promotion. That is actually a promotion that allows people to see that when you're faithful to God and being excellent in your skill, your competency, your confidence, your influence increases. So I want you to just take for a moment and think about, where are the places that God has given you influence? For some of you all, it might just be your home. I'm not saying just as if that's not enough, but that might be your place of influence. For some of you all, it might be on your job. It might be an extended family. It might be in the community. And if you can't think of any place, I'm going to give you something that you can do. One, volunteer somewhere. Volunteer with a nonprofit, get to know some people, see some gaps and some needs, some practical gaps and needs. Where are those who are lost, left behind, and marginalized that you can actually be helpful to? Where will your little bit of whatever you have, where will that be a lot for somebody else? These might be your places of influence. So family, let us be incarnational missionaries, influential disciples, and innovative reconcilers, because we are revived lives active to glorify God. Until next time, love you, fam. Thank you so much for watching. Listen, we want you to do a few things. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this with somebody else. There might be somebody else that's looking for some good Christ-centered content, and then you could be a small part of God's big plan to get the good news out to as many people as possible.